The man who views the world at 50 the same way that he did when he was 20 has wasted 30 years of his life. Muhammad Ali.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Every single book that I've read has shaded my view of the world in some way. The Millionaire Next Door showed me the importance of becoming a prodigious accumulator of wealth. Ego is the Enemy showed me that doing more and saying less is the key to having impact in the world. And Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone showed me that I don't care about Harry Potter. For those of you still with me, welcome back to my YouTube channel where I talk about books, habits, and health. Although most of the books that I read feed confirmation biases that I already have, there have been a few standout books that have actually changed my perspective and my worldview at large. So I watched Cowspiracy back in 2017 and I went vegetarian, and I'm still pescatarian to this day. But shortly after watching Cowspiracy, I picked up Lierre Keith's book on why the vegetarian diet is kind of a myth. Lierre Keith doesn't completely crap on the vegetarian diet, but through the vegetarian myth, Lierre Keith showed that there's a ton of gray area. All diets require death, whether that be from clearing forests to create space for us to factory farm, whether that be from diverting rivers away from the crops that we eat, or even fertilizing our soil. Death is required in every single diet, and there's no way around that. Now, a vegan diet tends to be more moral than a non-vegan diet, but it isn't as black and white as some vegans would have you believe. The second book that radically changed my perspective was The Giver by Lois Lowry. I used to be of the mindset that if you wanted to learn something from a book, the place to go was a non-fiction book. I almost looked down on fiction because I thought it was a lesser use of your time. Through reading The Giver, I learned that fiction books are not only incredibly engaging, but you can also learn a ton from them. The Giver serves as a cautionary tale to show us the perils of technological advancement and the homogenization of our society, and it calls into question our perception of our reality, and it just flips you on your head. 5 out of 5 book. The third book is Mortimer Adler's How to Read a Book. This book showed me that it isn't important how many books you read, but it's more important what you're actually getting out of it. I used to be a huge book bro, and I used to place a lot of importance on the quantity of books rather than the quality of books and the quality of your understanding of those books. It's more important to digest books, not consume them. He also showed me that you should be reading different books differently. You shouldn't be consuming casual fiction in the same way that you consume philosophy. And if you're to read a practical book, which I read a lot of, you can't actually have an opinion and understand the book unless you put into action what it's trying to convince you of. So I don't think there's anything magical about these 3 books that I listed, but I do think that there's a couple things that need to set the stage in order for you to actually have your perspective changed by a book. The first is you need to be ready to change. There have been plenty of books that I've read that I just wasn't ready to hear their message. One great example of this is Winners Take All. They kind of talk shit about capitalism and the nefarious intentions of people who run for-profit businesses but have a give-back model. Being a staunch capitalist, I really was not ready to hear this message, and because of that, I don't think it actually moved me in the way that the author wanted me to. The other reason why I think these books actually changed my perspective is because 1, these authors have different worldviews from me, and 2, would generally disagree with my philosophies at the time that I read the books. So Lois Lowry and Lierre Keith are both female authors, meaning that they have a very different lens of viewing the world. Lierre Keith would almost certainly disagree with a lot of the vegetarian propaganda that I was fed through Cowspiracy, and Lois Lowry presumably really enjoys fiction books. As for Mortimer Adler, he would definitely scoff at the way that I used to consume my books. Comment down below if there have been any books that have radically changed your perspective, and I'll be sure to add them to my reading list. Until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.